Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I run a business that deals in fire and emergency medical services supplies, and our range of products sometimes extend into civilian education, including CPR training. Over the years, we've served numerous customers ranging from fire departments to schools and individuals. Most of them are courteous and straightforward, but every now and then we encounter someone who fits the bill of an entitled person. This is a story of one such customer who left me baffled and ultimately taught her a costly lesson. It all started with a simple order for CPR training valves. These small plastic pieces are essential for mouth-to-mask training, providing a cost-effective alternative to using the actual one-way valves that come with the masks. Until recently, these valves came in boxes of 10, just loosely placed inside. However, the manufacturer decided to change the packaging for hygiene reasons. They began sealing the valves in Ziploc-style bags, each valve individually wrapped. Our story's protagonist is a customer who had placed only 2 orders with us over the course of 2 years. Her orders were exclusively for CPR training valves, and it was evident that her business or training facility required a substantial quantity of them. Now, what makes this tale particularly intriguing is the timing of her 3rd order, which occurred a full year and a half after her initial purchase. By that time, we had fully transitioned to the new packaging style. When her order for 1,600 CPR training valves arrived, we immediately arranged for them to be drop-shipped from the manufacturer. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until 2 weeks later we received an unexpected phone call from the buyer. Followed was a classic case of entitlement that would become a legend in our business. The buyer says, "Hi, I received the order and this is not what I wanted at all." I answer, "I'm sorry to hear that. Could you please tell me what's wrong with the product you received?" "These valves are in bags and I specifically wanted them in a box." "I understand, but the manufacturer changed the packaging to improve hygiene. They now come sealed in Ziploc-style bags and are individually wrapped." "No, this won't work for me. I want them in a box." "Well, we no longer receive them in boxes from the manufacturer, so that's not possible." The buyer, getting increasingly frustrated, "You are cheating me. I demand a refund." At this point, I was puzzled by her insistence on having the valves in a box. It seemed like an odd request, given that the new packaging was more hygienic and practical. However, I tried to reason with her. "Ma'am, I assure you the new packaging is designed to be more sanitary. You can still use them by taking them out of the bags and placing them in any box of your choice." "No, I want them in a box. And if you can't do that, I want my money back." It was clear that this customer was not going to budge, and her tone was becoming increasingly hostile. This was a situation I had never encountered in my 15 years in the business, and I was dealing with a particularly difficult individual. Faced with this unreasonable demand, I decided to take a stand. In our written return policy, specified a 20% restocking fee for all returns. Although I had never enforced this policy before, I believe it was time to make an exception. I say, "I understand your frustration, but since the product is not defective, our return policy states that there is a 20% restocking fee for all the returns. Additionally, you will need to cover the cost of return shipping." "Fine. These valves are useless anyway." With that, the customer reluctantly agreed to return the order, not realizing the financial repercussions her stubbornness would have. In the end, this woman paid a hefty price for her entitlement. She lost $350 on the initial shipping costs and had to shell out another $350 for returning shipping. To add insult to injury, the 20% restocking fee amounted to over $400. In total, her insistence on having the valves in a box cost her nearly $1,200. It was a lesson in jerk tax that she would unlikely forget. I then just sold off the inventory now with a little extra inventory on each. Hope she enjoyed that jerk tax. This story happened in January earlier this year, just after I turned 14. My birthday is on January 1st, which makes it pretty unique. You don't come across too many people who share your birthday, and I was already quite tall for my age, standing at 5'11", with a visible beard. Most people mistook me for a 16 or 17-year-old. After my birthday had passed, my parents, who weren't exactly the best at picking out presents, just gave me some money. With that money burning a hole in my pockets, I decided to spend it on something special for my close friend, who had a birthday just 4 days after mine. We were practically inseparable. We even had rooms in each other's houses, so when my friend mentioned how he wished he could get a PC, I knew what I had to do. One weekend around noon, we headed out to grab a bite to eat. As we were eating, I told him about my plan. "Hey, let's go chill at my place," I suggested, and he agreed. He had no idea what I had in mind. We were more like brothers, calling each other's parents auntie and uncle. But as we got into an Uber, my friend noticed that we weren't headed to his house. "This isn't the way to my place," he pointed out. I grinned and assured him that we were going to do something fun. It wasn't until he spotted the PC World store that he became thoroughly confused. Why are we here?" he asked, puzzled. I replied, "It's an early birthday present. I can do it on a school day, so let's pick something out now." My friend tried to protest, but deep down he knew that resistance was futile. We entered the store and I told him to choose anything he wanted. He was ecstatic and I was just as excited to surprise him. He headed off to explore the options and I stood nearby, waiting to help him make a decision. And that's when things took an unexpected turn. I heard a woman clearing her throat behind me. I turned to see her standing there looking impatient. She asked me where something was in the store, and I honestly didn't know. So I politely told her that I didn't have that information. I thought that would be the end of it, but boy was I wrong. She started ranting about how I should follow company policy and not pull out my phone while talking to customers. I was baffled to say the least. I turned away, assuming that would be the end of our brief interaction. But then she did something that took me completely by surprise. She lunged forward and grabbed my arm. Instinctively, I pushed her away to break her grip. I mean, when someone grabs you like that, you don't just stand there, right? I wasn't expecting what happened next though. The entitled lady, who was considerably shorter than me, maybe around 5'5" at most, went flying backward and crashed into a row of PCs. There was an audible crash as one of the monitors fell to the floor and shattered. Chaos ensued. Security personnel came running to the scene and my friend, who tended to shy away from confrontation, was right there with them. I think he was more frightened than I was. The entitled lady, however, was screaming at the top of her lungs about how I had assaulted her and pulled out my phone. She even claimed that I worked at the store, which was utterly absurd. Thankfully, the manager quickly stepped in and shut her down. It was almost comical how her accusations crumbled in the face of logic. But the drama didn't end there. The police were called in to sort things out. They took statements from both of us, and it seemed like they were giving me some pretty judgmental looks. They even insisted that I call my parents, but I resisted, not wanting to drag them into this mess. Eventually, the store security footage was reviewed, and it became crystal clear who was in the wrong here. The footage confirmed that the entitled lady had grabbed me first, and my reaction was purely defensive. With that, I was off the hook and I finally had to provide my name for the records. However, the police did contact my parents to inform them of the situation. The silver lining in this bizarre episode was that the manager offered my friend and me a 20% discount on whatever we decided to purchase. So in the end, we managed to leave the store with a PC for my friend and a listen for the entitled lady. Hey everyone, I got a great one for you from yesterday. Half of my co-workers got stuck at a conference because of the hurricane. So the rest of us have been working ridiculous shifts to cover. Don't mind the overtime and it couldn't be helped, so it is what it is. Yesterday I worked 12 hours after having worked 12 the 2 days before, and knowing I'd have another 12 today. Last one. Yay. Honestly, it wasn't horrible, but yeah, I was tired. Which is why I did what I did in the story. I changed out my work shirt before I even left the building. So I was wearing jeans and a tie-dye t-shirt when I wandered like a zombie into a fast food place to get something to eat. I get my food and kind of tuck myself into a corner to eat. At one point I hear a bit of commotion, but ignore it. As I get up and throw out my trash, I hear an old man say, "Her! She should be fired!" Oh man, hell is going down and I'm nippy. So I look over and a guy is pointing at me with a super angry look on his face. Glance behind me, no one. Oh man, he's definitely pointing at me. He starts yelling about when he was here yesterday and how rude the cashier was and how I, messed his order up. I'm half awake and just confused, look at the manager like, what the hell? And he gives me the scared/apologetic I have no idea look. The old man still ranting when the manager says, "Sir, I'd love to help you get this sorted out, but she doesn't work here. I can help you figure out who it was, but it wasn't her." And as this sub always goes, the old guy didn't listen. "No, I know it was her. I wouldn't forget that nasty face." Okay, now I'm awake and increasingly getting angrier. Well, you apparently did, because I seriously do not work here and never have. Dude's not worth my time. I give the manager a have fun with this look and start towards the door. This jerk threw a chair at me. A chair. It didn't hit me, but he sure did try. It got a bit fuzzy with everything going on at once, but the manager grabbed him up so fast in a bear hug and walked toward the door saying, "That's it. You're out of here. If you come back again, I am calling the cops. That is, if this lady doesn't do so first for you trying to assault her with a chair." The old guy said something about she turned her back to me, now let me go, but the manager responded something like, "That's not how this works," or something like that. Like I said, it was fast and I was still a bit out of it. Props to the manager, by the way. He got that crazy man away from me, his actual employees, and the other customers, including a few children, in a matter of seconds. He pushed them out still screaming and held the door shut, offered me all the free food in the world and told me he'd happily help me press charges. Had he left, I honestly might not have, but he was still yelling and banging on the door, so we basically had to get him to leave. So we called the cops to remove him. While we were waiting, the manager mentions the cameras, sends back someone to pull it up so the cops can see it. The cops get there, get the old guy in cuffs and start asking what happened. The old guy lied through his teeth, saying I threw the chair and the manager assaulted him and lied about being my boss. Easy as heck to prove otherwise with the cameras. So he's in jail now for a list of charges. After one cop leaves with the old guy, another stays to get statements and all that. For a giggle, they also looked to try to figure out what cashier was apparently so horrible. There were only guys working the entire day. They couldn't even find the old guy and were sure he never came in. As I was finally leaving, the cop looks at me and innocently asks, "You sure you don't work here?" Dude. I don't know why, but I lost it. And I started laughing. Asked him if he wanted me to show him how to teach a chair to fly. And he also lost it and laughed. Edit. Many people have mentioned that this sounds like the man has Alzheimer's or dementia. This morning I found his mugshot, which helped me find other times he's been in jail. Over the past 20 years, records aren't updated to show anything before that. He's been charged for assault 4 times, trespassing 2 times, a random DUI, and resisting arrest 6 times. So of the 7 arrests, he resisted all but 1. What I'm saying is, this guy just seemed like a jerk. Going through other comments throughout the day, sorry if I don't get yours. Thanks for reading, guys. Thought this sub would like it, just not this much. Edit 2. No, I am not dating the cop now, sorry guys. He's like 20 years old and married. Also, I am not from Minnesota, just love the phrases there. The chair has been retired to live out the rest of his days in peace. Edit 3. Hoping this will be the last edit unless I get an update. I wouldn't sue the company because they did nothing wrong. They have been overly nice to me. In fact, one of the higher up people who I talked to mentioned paying for my therapy. Just sounds ridiculous to me. I'm not hurt or traumatized. It's actually turned into a great story to tell others. Like you guys. I know it wouldn't affect the company or its employees, but it won't do anything to that old guy either. Wouldn't even teach the company a lesson because they apparently train their people to react the right way anyway. If anything, I'll be testifying in court against the old man to try to keep him away from the general public for as long as the law allows. Hoping with all the past charges, he'll most likely get the maximum punishment. Making a long story short here, the day after Christmas, my 16-year-old niece Emma called me sobbing, begging to come live with me. She said her house was a prison and her parents wouldn't let her be happy anymore. We talked for a while and what she told me was confirmed as true by my sister when I talked to her. Emma has always had lopsided grades, with A in English and history but C and D in math and science. This time last year, she was diagnosed with ADHD, which I knew because I was diagnosed a few years ago, and my sister called me to ask my opinion on how well non-medication treatments worked. Since her husband was adamantly opposed to letting Emma take what her doctor prescribed for fear of her becoming addicted, medication and intuitive living has always worked best for me. But when I was pregnant with my kids and couldn't take meds, I got by with a recommended ADHD diet and exercise regime and a good routine. It turns out my brother-in-law has taken that into hyperdrive and gone full prison guard on Emma's life in order to get her grades up. She has strict routine that only includes school/studying, exercise and family meal times. She is not allowed any contact with friends outside of school. And she eats a special diet that doesn't include dairy, caffeine or sweets of any kind. Everything distracting has been taken out of her room, including all of her books and beloved paintings by my late mother. Her science and math grades have come up to B, which my brother-in-law insists mean the routine is working but still can be eased up on yet. Since she hasn't come to her full potential, the incident that triggered her phone call, she stole her brother's phone while he was sleeping because she's not allowed a phone or unsupervised computer time, was her being banned from celebrating Christmas with the family, since it will be a deviation from her routine. I feel like this has fallen into awful territory and has only gone on so long due to the current craziness. I got my sister on the phone and she broke down crying, saying that she's begged her husband to ease up, but that openly instituting a lighter set of rules or telling Emma to ignore him will absolutely lead to a divorce. She says she's weighed the options, and since her husband would definitely get 50-50 custody of the kids, spurring a divorce to get Emma out of brother-in-law's rules half the time for the next 2.5 years of high school isn't really worth the kids being in a broken home and losing her kids half the time, especially with the other two still just 13 and 10. She said she'd work on him, but according to my nephew, my brother-in-law has been even harder on Emma since he found out we talked. I think Child Protective Services and the school need to be aware of this, but my dad says it's not against the law to be strict. And my husband says I will be wasting resources calling them since it's not serious enough for the courts to get involved. I just don't know what else to do. I feel like Child Protective Services could at least get Emma real treatment. And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, "Not the jerk, but don't be surprised if Child Protective Services doesn't do much. Yeah, this is hyper strict, but I don't know if you can call it abusive. I think you can expect that your niece will flee the house the first moment she gets when she turns 18. Another commenter adds, "You should probably talk to your niece and tell her When she's grown up, there's a spot in your house because it will be difficult when she leaves. Edit. I don't think minors are allowed to leave without parental approval. Also, your sister is not doing anything to stop this problem, as a kid is still facing this harsh treatment and even worse than before. A third commenter goes with, if you have any spare income, I would suggest putting a small amount aside every month in a fund for her. If her father is this controlling and awful, he's not going to help her go to college or get a car or any of those things young adults realistically need help with monetarily. Emma will appreciate it tremendously, and it means if she does come running to you at 18, you have a buffer for expenses. And therapy, so much therapy.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.